Hi everybody, I'm Dr. Nancy Tan. I'm from SBCC Baby and Child Clinic in Glen Eagles. My main interests are treating children with liver, gut and nutrition problems. Today I'm here to answer some of the questions that you have sent in. My mother likes to give my 11-month-old baby cola to drink. Is this bad for him? This is one of the interesting questions we received about 11-month-old being given diet cola. Well, basically, diet cola, although it's a diet drink, still contains artificial sugar. It also contains other inappropriate chemicals like caffeine. So to use a diet drink in any child, even whether the child is 11 months old or older, it's really not very appropriate because the chemicals and also the coloring. And giving diet cola, whether it is gassy or not, any diet drinks, you do realize that it sort of encourages a sweet tooth, and that's not a good habit to build, because eventually as the child grows older, if they do have a sweet tooth, they will naturally take other sugared drinks which may or may not be diet in content, and this is not good for general growth, and sometimes they end up being obese as a result of their bad habit. How can I encourage my child to try new foods? Encouraging a baby to try new foods is actually a difficult task. It is not a natural thing for a baby to want to eat new things. And to begin with, you realize that feeding, there are three main components. One is the baby himself, one is that of the feeder, and one is that of the food. So let's address the component about the caregiver first. So being the caregiver, firstly, you must not have too high an expectation when they first start feeding. You do not expect them to continue to feed an entire bowl during their first try, and sometimes when you give a food, they might not like it for the first time, and you don't just stop serving it there. So as a feeder, you must remain calm. Don't give up, even if a child refuses the food. Just persist or try it in another form. For example, if a child refuses to have meat because of the way it's textured, so try it in another way. Maybe blend it, maybe put it in a sauce, and be persistent. Don't just give up, and the baby will eventually learn how to eat it. And for the baby themselves, a lot of parents like to have a lot of distractions around when just to entice the baby to eat. For example, they turn on the TV, they turn on the radio, they give them iPhones, and this is really not a good habit in the long run. What you really need to do is to put them in a seat, make sure that they're at the dinner table, try and eat together with the child, because sometimes the child would like to imitate what the adults are doing, and they may do better if they see the adults are eating. Do not turn on the TV, because eventually what will happen is that you will end up spending a lot of time in front of the screen, and still your eating habits may not improve. And as for the food itself, how you introduce new foods is to do it one at a time. Do not try too many new things at one time, because contrary to the beliefs, some babies may not be used to certain tastes. Don't start with foods that are too strong tasting. For example, don't start with spinach. Sometimes you may need to start with something blander like an apple, because baby is you're exposing a baby first time to a certain taste, they may not be used to it. And the different types of food that you give a variety. Do not keep giving the same thing every day. Sometimes you just get tired of it, and they will not cooperate, and they will not eat as much. My wife and I are on a vegetarian diet. I'm wondering if this is harmful for our child. We do eat eggs but no meat. Do we need any supplements? A vegetarian diet is getting more popular nowadays because of health consequences, and converting to a vegetarian diet, it's not harmful if you pay attention to the amount of nutrients that you get in your vegetarian diet. Basically, you're not getting enough meats, you're not getting sufficient iron if you do not eat meats, and if you do not have all these replaced in a vegetarian diet, these can be lacking. To make sure that the child gets enough proteins, you can replace meats with lentils, beans, nuts, and tofu, and even eggs if you do take eggs in your vegetarian diet. And as for making up for the iron content, what you can do is that you can give them iron fortified cereals, you can give them milk with iron supplements in them already, and you can also make sure that they get lots of green leafy vegetables. Vegetarian diet may be very acceptable for an adult. However, in some children, it may be difficult for them to eat those kinds of foods, and they may be fussy because of the different tastes. So if you are not able to get enough protein or iron fortified foods into your child, you may want to consider some supplements, mainly that of iron drops or some vitamin drops for the child. My 2-year-old is very active and he sweats a lot. Can you please advise how much water is appropriate for him and how can I ensure that he gets enough in childcare? In a tropical country like Singapore, it is very easy for children to sweat a lot, and to ensure that the child gets well hydrated, sometimes it's not an easy job. Now, firstly, how do you actually, without doing any calculations or measurement, make sure that your child is drinking enough? Is by looking at his urine output. If the child is wetting his diapers quite a few times a day or going to the toilet quite a few times a day and the urine color is a nice light yellow clear color, then obviously your child is getting enough fluids. There is a formula to calculate the amount of fluids that a child needs in a day, and basically that is not as important as encouraging the child to drink constantly. You can actually provide him with his own sippy cup or his own water bottle and make that accessible most of the time so that the child will go to the cup or the bottle and sip quite constantly. For a child that's 2 years old, roughly the weight would be between 10 to 15 kilograms, and the rough amount that the child needs would be somewhere between 1 to 1.5 liters of fluids a day. How do you calculate a BMI in children, and is it important for us to use the BMI index in a child? BMI is a convenient index that we often use in adults. It's less used in a child, although the formula is about the same. The way to calculate BMI is to use your weight over your height squared. And for children, generally, even as doctors, we do like to use the height and weight percentile charts rather than a BMI, because values for children and values for adults are not comparable. So we can't say, like, for example, 23 BMI is normal for an adult. It's not going to be normal for a child. It's much easier for us to use the growth and height charts. And generally, if your baby is eating well and is putting on weight, and it's on a good percentile chart, or you're following a certain percentile on the height and weight chart, then you're doing fine. Thank you for your questions. I'm Dr. Nancy Tan from SBCC Baby and Child Clinic. Happy parenting.